I'm gonna use some very simple brushes. So for this, I think I'm gonna use the sketching pencils, and I'm gonna keep making new layers. And I don't have a specific idea of what I'm doing, but let's see. This will be interesting. Oh, I forgot the music. Sorry, just a second. I can paint without music, so I created myself this live mix. Oh, damn it. Okay. Is it aligned? I think I can tap this. So for the beginning, I'm sorry that this is not gonna look great at first, but I really think that it's easier to have some kind of a composition going when I have a smaller area to paint. This is what I always try to explain to people who ask me that should I get a bigger or smaller iPad. And I think the general theory is that this bigger iPad is somehow better because it's bigger, but honestly, the most important stuff that I do on this is always in a smaller screen mode, and in that mode, it's the same size or even smaller than the smaller iPad. But I guess that's a thing that a lot of people have, that when you start painting, it can feel quite frustrating at first, and it's easy to think that if I just buy some stuff, this will be somehow easier. I think this pencil that I have has some kind of a slight angle, because every one of these like dots that I do, they come at this like diagonal angle. Maybe I need to look into that. It's a variant of the basic pencil. I thought I'd just like adjusted it by taking off the maximum size, because I always like the kind of gritty texture of it. So I wanted to do like more painting and not just drawing with it. I think somebody will eventually ask, what am I painting? I hope by that time comes, I will know. Right now, I don't. And I thought that since these like live streaming paintings are usually very scary for me, I thought that I can just try to have my goal for this one is to just enjoy it and create something that I feel that is relaxing. So I'm adding a lot of like little pieces everywhere just because I want to get this like general view of how the colors are talking with each other. There's no point drawing anything more detailed at this phase before I have kind of like the bulk of what I'm doing in place. And then I know what the colors are that I want to use and what the general like tone of the painting is going to be. Or the shape language even. I don't always like to draw the same way, so when you just let yourself doodle, you might find something that is kind of a new way of doing lines. I like these. It's some kind of a plant thing. But maybe the background is a bit too bright for my taste. I usually like to start quite dark and then brighten up later on because that feels more fun. I'm just gonna do like overly dark tone here and then blur it later, like this. Okay. And just having that gradient, it kind of already gives a bit more tones. I know that you usually don't see that I'm flipping the canvas horizontally in my painting videos because it doesn't show in the recording of a Procreate file, and it would be like very disorienting to watch in sped up version too, but I do it a lot because I have a really strong art lean. I'm extremely right-handed, so all of my lines normally tend to end up like this. So to fix the composition, I flip the whole canvas, and then I just add balance later. And I do this same thing with traditional paintings too. If I have an oil painting, for example, I will take it and walk in front of a mirror every now and then quickly with the paintbrush I will add notes to the parts where I notice that the composition is off because of my art lean. It's not something that you can't work with, it just requires extra thought. Okay, these look like they are coming out of branches, but I think it would make more sense if these are rocks underwater. Yeah. But maybe not dark rocks. It would be like very pale. At this point, I know that a lot of lines are still very messy, and I think that's okay, because if I now focused on cleaning up those lines, I would completely miss the point that I'm supposed to be focusing on the composition right now. And I have a feeling that this is gonna be one of those paintings that has a lot of colors and a lot of different shapes. In those instances, the composition tends to be really hard to control. It's kind of like fun in a chaotic way, I think. Right now, most of my painting time is consumed by commissions. I have a lot of different pretty cool commissions that I'm working on. I'm excited about working on those, but it doesn't give me a ton of time to do my own paintings, so that's why I also think these are important, this kind of like freestyle paintings. It's surprising how bright some of these colors are, considering like how far they are from maximum saturation still. I think I'm gonna do some kind of an underwater cactus type of thing. And I changed the eraser to be the same brush as the pencil that I'm working on, just to keep the texture more consistent throughout. Because if the eraser is completely sharp edged, and you use that eraser with something that has kind of more texture, like this pencil brush, then the end result will have this kind of two very different type of lines, and maybe that's something that you're going for, but I just think it's important to be aware that they will not look the same. What is happening? For some reason I'm connected. Weird. I lost the connection from the pencil for a minute there. Hope that doesn't come back. This is why it's so stressful to do live streams, because so many things can go wrong, honestly. Because you kind of have to just live with the fact that you can't control everything. Try to do a pretty small jellyfish in here. Just hanging in the background. Whoop. Right now I'm not happy with the overall colors yet. I don't think they have the right type of this kind of underwater feeling, so I'm doing some adjustments to try to get to that feeling. I think I'm gonna make the highlights a bit more green than the rest. Not all of the brushes react to the opacity the same way, so even though I'm not at 100% opacity, it still almost works exactly the same way. Just color picking the same parts, it gives a little bit more color variety, so that's why I did it. Usually I like to work as close to 100% as possible, just to keep the lines sharp, because you don't want to go over the entire painting when you're done and sharpen everything. Just takes too much time. I need to figure out this whole area that I've been avoiding a lot right now, and I'm now going to make a new layer as a safety net, and I'm gonna fix whatever it is that is happening here. Eesh. Hey people, I'm sorry that I didn't have the chat on earlier. Now I put it on. I'm sorry. Apparently that's a separate button that I need to press. So there's Diana and Verdia. I should stop trying to say people's names, especially on a live thing. There's no way I'm gonna get it right by guessing. Okay, these are non-shapes. I don't like this. Wait, okay. Since everything is so soft around this area, I'm going to need some more structure. I have it on a separate layer. Oh, there goes the music again. Oh dear. This was supposed to be relaxing. Am I relaxed yet? No. I'm having a heart attack. But that's okay. I'm making an image. There's going to be a painting. It's all going to be fine. I'm so relaxed that I'm gonna be ending up breathing into a paper bag after this. Dear Lord. Okay. I don't like any of this. I'm sorry. It's going to be fine. I trust the process. Okay, so if I'm now trying to process what I'm actually doing, is that this area needs more structure. Do these things provide it? Kinda. Is it distracting that they're going off screen? Yes. So I'm gonna make them smaller. And they're gonna reach about here. That makes more sense than just randomly trying different stuff. And in the end, since this is a separate layer, I'm gonna lock the alpha of this layer and use that to add lighting to this part. And now we have something that makes sense, rather than just panicking and trying to paint shapes for no reason. The hard part about this is, and the reason why I deleted so many of those leaves earlier, that it's a repeating shape, kind of, because these plants, they have similar shaped leaves coming out of the main stem at regular intervals. And what kills the composition is if you have too much repetition, like here, of similar shapes that are repeating the same pattern. So I'm kind of drawing the same leaf over and over, but every time I have to do it in a different way to avoid that repetition in the composition. And that's why it gets harder the more of these there are, because there's so many things to compare them to. And they can be further apart and then repeat the pattern, but if they are very close to each other and then they have a repeating pattern, it looks unnatural, because in nature everything is kind of automatically chaos, and the human eye wants to sort everything into this kind of like easy to understand patterns. And for example, when you're painting a mountain range, you automatically accidentally paint similar shapes in the mountain range, and then it ends up looking kind of off. If you think about like kids' drawings of mountains, they do like these triangular shapes, and then the whole mountain range is just triangular shapes. But the thing is that when we're adults, we still do that, or we want to do that, arrange things into shape, like neatly understandable patterns, and that causes the composition to look stiff. Okay, now I have something that I'm more happy with. But it still needs some layers to work. And I haven't completely given up on the idea of adding some fish into this thing. I don't really have time for like realistic fish, or even if realistic fish would fit into this illustration, but something like these dark blobs in the distance. Are you a fish? Yes, maybe. Fish-like creature, maybe at least. I can't stand the no music thing, so I'm gonna look up something from my... How am I doing on time? Like halfway. It's not too bad. I still have a long way to go. I think my main goal with these streams is to like get to the point of the painting where like it's not all the way polished, because that's kind of boring to look at me painting details for hours and hours. But just the main point of it, because everybody can do details. It's really not the hardest part of a painting. But it's finding the idea. And sometimes it's even starting. I don't want to get too messy with this cross-hatching. Cross-hatch like you have a purpose. I don't know what the purpose of this is. Oh, since probably like only few people will ever see this, I can now say that one thing that was super cool to notice yesterday, and this is something that I can pretty much talk with anybody in my life, because people don't understand how much work it is to have a channel like this. And the fact that yesterday we went over 2,000 subscribers on this channel, I was just super excited about that, and like really happy and grateful. And I honestly didn't think that I would make it. I had this plan B that if I don't get to 1,000 subscribers by the end of the year, that I will just not do any more videos, because then it's clearly no point in doing it if nobody wants to see them. And to reach that goal so quickly, I think it's really exciting. I'm really happy about it. Also, if you haven't seen yet, I recommend everybody go and check this analogous colors challenge that I did on Instagram. The deadline for it is already done, but if you haven't done it, I highly recommend doing it. I learned a ton about painting, and I think any skill level painter who does the analogous colors challenge, like, you will be a better painter when you're done. Okay, now I'm doing like way too much detail considering that this is the corner of the image, so I'm gonna just do this. And use a clipping mask. I want to see if I can use these transform tools to create some kind of a plant round shape thingy around here to kind of close off the composition. And then erase parts of this top layer to reveal what's underneath. I think I'm starting to have enough colors in this picture to have information to know what to add and what parts are just unnecessary clutter. I really like this part, but unfortunately it's not saying anything important about the shape of this rock, so I need to get rid of it. Oh, I'm sorry, rock. done with everything else because that involves painting. I'm not happy until I have some little fish in here. I don't care that I can draw realistic fish into this picture, but I'm gonna draw like yes. This makes me ridiculously happy for some reason. They're little orange fish. I know that they might look like blobs, but these are fish, god damn it. Maybe they have yellow fins. Or white, kind of like clownfish. Yeah, looks better. And they're all going the same way. Oh my god, I love them so much. Oh. I have a little fish colony that I wanted. And it's going places. if you just could see me smiling. Okay, now it's a 10 times better painting for no other reason than having these little fish. Let's do some like suggestions of distant fish of the same color. On what layer is this? Weird. Suspicious looking swirl. Now it's done. Okay. I wonder if I can repurpose some of these damn weeds. Just want more like diagonal lines to lead the eye to this area of the painting, and I know that the color is wrong. Now it's closer to what I want, and then I'm gonna get rid of the parts that like look most obviously like what I just shamelessly copy pasted from my own painting. These tips. Whoop. Okay, I stole my own stuff. Don't tell anybody. doing on time? About 15 minutes to go. I'm not too worried. I just think that the overall lighting could use... Oh, Artlene. Here we go again. Oh my god. Okay, so what I'm seeing right now is that everything is leaning way too much to the left. And that's the Artlene that I was talking about earlier. So I'm gonna try to fix that by balancing it with like opposing lines from this direction. Since it's underwater, maybe I could try doing like a stream or something. Because this is a stream, get it? Oh my god. Okay, that, and maybe then it kind of swirls behind the rock and outwards from here. The thing about Artlene is that once you flip the image and you start working on the fixes, the longer you stay in that flip state, my eye gets used to the composition, and then you kind of like lose sight of those things that were kind of so shocking once you first flipped it. So it's important to start working on the composition issues right away, as quickly as possible, because you will forget basically, or get used to what you have done. I know that there's this like pressure of painting live, but at this point I do find doing these like squiggly lines, relaxing. And it's not just this painting, but it's the fact that this painting is so different than the commissions that I'm working on. All of them are completely opposite of this in terms of like line rhythm. It's just, this is exactly the kind of break that I needed right now, and maybe I can approach them with more a different mindset, because in one of them I do feel like I'm kind of stuck, and I know that I need to make some drastic changes to kind of get unstuck again and finish the piece. I want to make something that the clients will like. This part of the moss is closest kind of to the camera, so I want to add a bit more detail to it, because this part will inform the rest of the image of what the moss texture is like. So I don't need to repeat it anywhere, but this is kind of like a sign that says what the moss is going to be looking like. And maybe it's just like more defined edges. Thanks, Mark. That really helps when you're doing a painting like this and you feel like I'm completely, utterly lost. Okay, I think I've established that I'm going to do this thing to the moss. Doesn't mean that you have to endure this entire thing that I am going to detail the moss. I think actually this might be enough. I don't need to go overboard with it. Yeah, moving on to the stone. I like to call these like light purple area colors kind of low calorie colors. And by that I mean that everything else has so much like texture and richness to it that when you have this one area that looks like somebody just took like a paint bucket and dropped it onto your painting, it looks like there's a cheap area. in the painting. Kind of like empty calories, especially when it's this kind of like candy color, bright colors, they look flat quite easily. And I'm trying to fix that. I kind of like the way that these blobs ended up camouflaging themselves into the painting. I didn't even remember that they are there. Kind of like fish swimming through a coral reef. I'm doing the same thing with details, that I'm adding details just to the few ones that are closest to the camera. And then I will kind of have to trick people into thinking that there's some detail in the back too. Okay, now I do a clipping mask, and then a normal mask, and then invert. And to the inverted color mask, I'm painting with a very low opacity brush to add some lighting effects to these jellyfish things, shapes that I added earlier. Then I merge the mask. Then I blur it a bit. Now at this stage I'm very grateful for the fact that I have dropped most of my layers into a single thing, because things get really easily quite messy at this phase. Yeah, that lighting trick is quite common in most of my paintings. In fact, I'm gonna try and do it for this whole thing right now. I know that this is going to look super scary for a second, but it's all gonna be okay. The only way this part works is if you use enough muted colors so that you don't blow out the entire color palette at this phase by doing this. But if you have, for example, black in the image, this won't work. Or white, it won't work. Or full saturation, anything. still don't like the purple thing in the background. I don't have to love everything, but I can just maybe de-emphasize the purple part. By muted colors, I mean colors that are here, like in this range. Like if you go outside of, for example, this ring, you have like full white, black, and full saturation colors. But if you work here, like everything that is outside of this ring, this area, that area you can still use when you're adjusting the colors and doing edits to the image. Like kind of like you are editing a photograph. You won't have that freedom in the end when you're adding highlights, or even if you're just hand painting them, there's no room to go for the values if you use any of them. If you look at, like, for example, my color palette, even this yellow, it's not like full brightness, but like this I usually never use. But like this yellow might look the same way. I would never recommend going like higher than this. Before the end, of course you can use like, and my paintings are usually very saturated, but I only add the very saturated parts at the very end, because that's when you have more information about what you're doing, basically. And those full saturation colors, they will draw attention to those parts. Like for example, this is a very highly saturated like part of the purple here, and it's drawing my eye into that area, also because there's a complementary color right next to it. And this is not especially interesting part of the painting that I want anybody to be looking at, so I'm desaturating it basically to de-emphasize its importance. And these are what like a lot of people consider ugly colors, but like if you don't have a bit of these kind of ugly colors in your painting, every now and then like all the bright colors will just scream at the same time and nothing will look bright in the end. So even if the overall impression of this painting is quite colorful, it still needs those muted colors to work. At least that's what I think. I hope that explains somewhat. It looks like this time we didn't have any of those weird cuts to the Wi-Fi. I've honestly done everything that I know how to improve it. I switched off all the devices in the apartment, and maybe that has something to do with it. Honestly, sometimes it could just be the operator that has issues. and it's not something that I can improve. But this time we didn't have any cuts, so that's fine. Also, where are we on time? We're already over 1 hour. Okay, I need to stop. But I kind of like this painting this way a bit more still. I know that there are some like composition stuff here. When you see me posting this later to my Instagram, like you can expect that there's going to be something that counterbalances the composition in this area and maybe add a bit more contrast to the upper part. Actually, I can do this right now. It's not gonna take that long. God damn it. Why is my brush not working? It's trying to tell me to stop. Yes, this is what we're doing. I know that this might look so horrifying to some people. And then just Gaussian blur. Gaussian blur is your friend now and always. And with this I can just like control how drastic that is. But yeah, I like the way that that darkness brings up those colors in the middle better. One thing that might work in the same way, but also like pull out the silhouette a bit more. I don't know if this is going to work, but I can try. Do this and maybe overlay. It's not bright enough. So it adds just a little bit more of like that punch to the colors. And overlay always makes things also a bit more saturated. So you might want to be aware of that. If you do this, see, no, I kind of like the way that it hits everything. So I'm gonna merge these, and at this phase, I'm using a clipping mask, because with this clipping mask merging down, I'm applying this effect to only the whole coral reef thingy. I don't know what you call this. Is it like a mini coral reef? If anybody has any suggestions for the name of this piece, you feel free to do so. But there will be a name. Okay, now after I started painting this, do I feel more relaxed? It's hard to tell. I have a painting at least. I'm happy about that. But yeah, this whole live streaming thing, there's so many things, honestly, to get right. But if I compare this emotion that I'm right now feeling, I'm feeling like 30% less utter panic than I was in the first ones. So I guess that's good. Or progress at least. Although there's something about the whole painting video format that it's kind of like a magic trick that you don't see me make these bad mistakes and go wrong with decisions and go back on those decisions. And I want to be kind of like more transparent in that regard, that when you paint and you have those feelings, I don't think that I'm not going through the exact same things. Painting is kind of chaotic a lot of the times. Okay. I think this painting, the fun part, which I'm kind of like preserving for later, is obviously going to be able to paint very little tiny bubbles just everywhere, and maybe even bubbles that reflect the environment. I know that there's not like bubbles underwater all the time because there's no body breathing the bubbles in there, but god damn it, this is my painting. Don't confuse me with real world facts. Okay, I'm definitely stopping now. Mikko, take your hand off the tablet and get off the chair. You've been painting for 1 hour and this has to be enough. Now you're really, really honestly going to stop. Right about now. Mikko, you're not getting up. Oh my god. You're doing the bubbles already. Yes. Yes, I am. Okay. Well, I'm pretty happy with how this turned out. I will finish this painting and post it on my Instagram. And thank you for spending the morning with me. I have this like whole cup of coffee yet to gulp down before I leave. But thank you so much for keeping me company, and I will see you in the next video. And if you have any like ideas for videos or tutorials, please leave them in the comments and I'll see what I can do about it. Previously, people have been asking about tutorial about how to create these palettes, and that's something that I'm working on. But I'm actually looking at my own palettes and seeing that what are the palettes that I like to use, and kind of writing that tutorial based on the information of what works for me, because that's how I think that I can be more useful to you. But have a great day or night and whatever time of the day it is there, and I'll see you in the next videos. Okay, bye.